Welcome to our podcast.
It's not prod.
I can't.
It's a pod.
I think I need a speech language pathologist right about now.
Let's try that one again.
Hello, SLPs. Welcome to True Confessions with Lisa and Sarah. Okay, can start confessing now. This is so cheesy.
Well, hey, Sarah.
Hi, Lisa.
How are you doing this lovely Arizona smoldering hot day?
Right. I'm sure there's going to be a date posted when we put this up on the podcast, but it's June, and it's like 115 degrees today.
Is it really? See, I just stay indoors. I'm inside in the AC.
I might have lied about that. I just assume it's 115 because it feels like hell.
It always does. But, I know everyone kind of freaks out about our heat here, but I freak out more from the heat back east or in the Midwest.
Yes. Our claim to fame is it's a dry heat.
Right. Theirs is very moist. That's one of my favorite words.
I hate that word. You know how we have banned words? That's one of them.
Moist. You get moist armpits.
Okay. And let's talk about the heat again.
They have bugs too, and they have all other kinds of things that come with that kind of heat. So I'm fine with our
dry heat.
And
here's the deal. We have AC.
And pools.
They're like bathwater warm, but...
And ice, unlike Europe.
Yeah. So come visit us in August.
Stay with Sarah.
You can stay with me.
Yeah, sweet.
You're welcome. All right. So, what are we talking about?
Well, we have a confession to make today that may not be a surprise to anyone out there, but we are not business majors.
What?
Yeah, you didn't know that when we started a business?
No, I thought we were fully trained for this.
That was not in my education profile at Arizona State University.
No?
Or Florida International University, my undergrad alma mater.
So all of those business courses we've taken have really been paying off?
What business courses?
Yeah, exactly. They're called Real Life.
Yes. Actually, didn't we talk about that with someone where we're like, maybe we need to go back to school and take some business courses? Yeah. And they're like,
you're in it.
You're in it. You're taking courses every day with what you're doing.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And obviously, we've taken a lot of online courses on specific things that we did need to know. Yeah, for skill development. But no, nothing. We have not an ounce of knowledge. Well, now we do. I hope. But 3 years ago, we had no idea what we were doing.
Well, that is it. I mean, and that's maybe what we want to talk about today is just how the heck did we get here where we're sitting now versus when we started. So our startup journey really began in 2014, right? At the end of 2014. And that's when Sarah and I were working together in the same school district. I was working as the lead SLP and Sarah was new to my district that year. So we had started a project where we thought we were going to do something to benefit our school district, but it just kind of didn't turn out like that. Do you remember when we first even met?
I remember literally right after I interviewed with you and had been hired, we had started a conversation about ideas we have had and things that we wanted to do. I think I always knew that I wanted to create a product, or I had been writing a blog at the time that maybe I wanted to spend more energy on and start developing materials. And then you had mentioned things that you had created, and how your boyfriend at the time was always like, you've got all these great ideas, do something with them.
Right.
Do you remember that conversation? So this is even before the toolkit conversation. Do you remember that? Our first meeting?
I think that was that? I thought that was more when we did kind of.
No, this was I literally just started, because then fast forward to the next year, that always, I don't know if you even know this, that always stuck in my mind. That we had this kind of common thing about some ideas that we've created. One of them was this idea for progress monitoring tools. And we both kind of had something that was super similar. And so when that idea for creating criterion reference tests for the school district came up, did you reach out by email?
So basically how that all started is we had talked about as a district maybe wanting to create some of these tests. And so the first step was I asked anybody in the district that had anything to send it to me so we could review. Yeah. I literally think I got maybe 5 things sent to me in the whole district of 125 SLP. So that was kind of fascinating.
So I emailed you, and that's what it was. The minute I saw that, I'm like, I want to be a part of this. for some reason, isn't that funny? Like, this is how life works. But I thought, I want to be a part of this. I want to work with Lisa on this. And so I sent you an email and said, hey, I want to do this. And you emailed me back and said, sweet, when can we meet?
So we ended up meeting in November of that year and just sort of assigned each other some tasks because we were like, well, it's November's such a weird time of year anyways. And so we were like, okay, you do this, I'll do this. We'll meet in January and see where we're at and then kind of have next steps. And really, you were the only one that wanted to take on this project, which is kind of funny again, in a district of 125 people. So we came back together in January and nothing.
You're right. I remember you're like, so did you get those things done? And I'm like, nope.
And I'm like, me either. High five.
I did nothing over the break. Right. So then we kind of reconvened, readdressed some of the things we need to do, and it was in that conversation.
Well, because I think that's when we really understood there was no motivation really to do these for purposes of a side project for a school district because they were not going to be done within the school day. So that was one of those aha moments of, this is a great idea, this is very needed, but this is not something we can do within the scope of our workday. So if we are going to do this, why would we do this
on behalf of the district?
Right.
And I think we knew then too, one, we knew how involved it was going to be, but two, we knew we really had something here. And so, I think it was multifaceted. One, we knew we really actually had a good idea and something that was desperately needed. And two, why would we only do it for one district?
Right.
Like, this is something all therapists need. And so I think that was that kind of moment. But talk about too, there was really some magic in the room that day, Lisa.
Well, it was a small room, kind of like the confessional here.
I literally was in a closet.
And I just remember saying something at one point where I had to get something out of my purse, and I grabbed my purse. I always carry like a small purse inside of a giant purse that houses everything.
Right.
And I said, I know it's really weird, but I have a purse inside of a purse. And you go, you mean like this one?
Right.
And you did the same thing. You pulled out a small purse out of your purse. I just kind of looked at you. And then I said something like, this was back in the day when everyone was wearing Toms. And Vans were not popular like they are now.
Yeah.
And we were both wearing, you wear your educational, professional attire, but I would always wear Vans. I was running around the district, going up and down stairs, and even I think working in a school, if you're chasing after kids, it's not really, you're not wearing wedges.
No.
So I remember saying something where I'm like, I'm bringing Vans back. And you go, you mean like these? And you stick your foot out.
We had the same shoes. They were both the slip-ons.
It was amazing. And so we just kind of looked at each other, and there was this shift in energy where we had been talking about these ideas, and it was literally like something was born in that moment. It was magical.
A physical shift in the air. I will never forget that actual moment of feeling almost like this,
right.
We really have something here. And I think that's interesting. I think after we actually started the business, we both read the book Big Magic. And I will never forget when she talked about that idea of ideas want to be born. So they're going to come to you. And if you don't act on them, they will leave and go to someone else.
Right.
And so if you do not take action, that idea is going to be born one way or another, with or without you. And I always think, like, I've had other ideas in my life that somebody else ended up creating. And so that kind of was that premonition moment of, we knew this idea wanted to be born so desperately, and that's when these doors just started to open, right? Like, everything just started opening the way. Not that it was easy breezy, and we'll talk about that, but doors started to open the way, and that was that kind of first moment where we thought, we are going to do something with this.
So the first thing that we did, and I think because I was working at the district level, I was more sensitive to things like this, but we wanted permission to pursue this idea before we put any work into it. And so we have, we're the largest district in Arizona, and we have guidelines and procedures written down for almost probably like moonlighting sorts of policies. And I wanted to make sure that if we started to work on this idea, that we could, and it wouldn't be considered our school district's
that we would get
project.
Ownership.
Right.
We didn't want them being able to say, you created that while you were on contract with the district, we own it.
Well, and I wanted clarification on what on contract meant, because I know obviously these are bigger companies like Microsoft or Google or things like that. If you even have an idea when you're working for them, even if you're at home in the shower, then they consider that part of their intellectual property.
Right.
And so that was what we wanted clarification on, is if that we were not using district materials, we had our own computers, we were going to work off hours, would that be then considered, even though we're technically on contract throughout the workday, is that fine? So we did get a letter from a superintendent that gave us permission and basically reclarified that as far as that was how it worked in our district. It may be different in somebody else's school district, but one of the big kind of hot topics that I remember why this was even at the top of my mind is that there was some controversy on people creating teachers pay teachers materials.
Right.
And I think it's because they were creating them during their work time, during their prep hours or whatever, and then selling them.
During the school day.
And so the controversy was if you're creating those materials during your work hours, then you should be copywriting them property of the district and not sell them. That was considered double dipping.
I'm so glad you knew these things. That would have never been anything on the forefront of my mind. And I think that was brilliant. So not only do we get that letter in hand saying, in fact, no, we do not own anything that you create on your own time with your own materials, but there was something, but we started to track it.
Right.
We were like really, really serious about this. And so I thought that was really smart too. As you always said, we need to
put it in a
obviously
Google Calendar.
Schedule these meetings outside of the workday and record them.
Well,
so talk about scheduling meetings, Lisa.
I love, that's actually one of my favorite stories because I'm a single parent. I have been for a while. And so everything in my life is very structured. I was juggling at that time that we started our business. I had my kids full time. I'm a full-time parent. I was working full-time in Mesa Public Schools, and I was working a side job in a home health company. So I had some clients on the side. So then why I decided that a business is a great idea. Right. But to me, it was all just about time management. It was, I can do these things. I love, the electricity again of that moment, but just having something exciting that energizes you. That was really, something that I thought was cool. But with my schedule and my kids, they had activities that they did too. It needed to be on a calendar and it had to be booked and it had to be protected time. So we had decided to start that Friday after work would be the best time to kind of start this, to start these, the gears moving and get these wheels in motion. And so we blocked out Friday afternoons for what, like maybe 3 or 4 weeks in advance?
Yeah, at least several weeks in advance.
And so why don't you tell me how you felt about me showing up that first day?
Because we were meeting in my craft room, by the way, which I think is still so funny. And so that Friday came, and I got home, and I was exhausted after a really long day of working with kids, and I literally sat there and thought, please don't show up. Oh my gosh, please don't show up. And then freaking ding dong. Ding dong. And I was like, shit. Because I kept thinking, certainly she's tired. She's going to cancel this too. And I thought that every Friday. Every Friday, I was like, please don't come. And guess who showed up?
That's right.
Lisa.
It's on his calendar.
Goodness. And we'll talk about this more probably later. But I think the reason SLP Toolkit was ever born was because of our partnership and the accountability there. So not only did Lisa showing up every Friday make sure that these meetings actually happened, because if they'd been left up to me, I would have been like, F this. We ain't doing it. But also when we get into some of the parts where it got scary and we really had each other to rely on.
Well, and I think in general, too, we work really well together as far as our strengths and weaknesses. Yep. So that was, that's a perfect example of right there that,
I'm so pretty and she's so smart.
And pretty. No, but just that idea of we've always kind of filled in the gaps for each other. Definitely. And that has been such a blessing because, oh my goodness, you always tell me how many partnerships fail. And I go, but not us.
I know.
We're together forever.
It's so true. I would never have done this without a partner, but there's probably not another, I know for a fact there's not another partner I could have ever done this with. And I think we touched on it briefly, but Lisa and I weren't friends.
No, we literally had I had done some intro trainings.
Yeah, I had been a couple trainings with you. I think I called you once about an issue, maybe sent you 2 emails over that first couple of years. We were not friends.
So let's start a business.
We didn't know each other. And so here we're going into business together knowing nothing about each other. I've had friends I've had for 30 years I couldn't work with. And maybe that's why it works too. I don't know.
Yeah. So then I think that was awesome. But then even the idea of, so we did this for several months. And then that's when we decided, well, we probably need to make this more official and let's form an LLC, which I still remember getting on LegalZoom. That's how we did it.
Right.
And so excited, like putting in your credit card, pushing the button, and then boom.
Even like creating the name of the company was like such an ordeal.
Well, and how concrete our thinking was back then, I think, too. Like,
Yeah,
SLP,
would we be called SLP Toolkit today if we had the chance? Probably not. I know. We went back and forth on that title. So, yeah, once you got that title kind of put on this paper for us to submit for the LLC, it became real.
Right. But it was exciting. That was another step. Like, I just think of even all of the steps, but then even that moment, again, the things that you learn as you go through business and, do different things, but that forming an LLC, I think we paid LegalZoom, what, $400?
Something like that.
Which we could have gone straight to the state of Arizona and filed for about, well, if you didn't want to do it expedited, it would be about $50.
Right. And then we paid a statutory agent for a while. Then we found out it could just be anybody that had an address.
A statutory agent is who will be the formal person to receive mail. So say you get any kind of certified mail or whatever, you need to have a statutory agent, which means that no matter what, this is where that kind of mail goes. We were paying somebody in Scottsdale something like $125 a year,
right,
just so we could use their address. And I'm like, well, that's another business. We should just be statutory agents for people.
Dumb. So yeah, that was kind of a big defining moment for us once we got that paperwork for the LLC. That was kind of a big deal. Yeah. And then we spent really that first few months. It's so funny. I feel like it was so long ago. I'm actually thinking, what the hell did we do for the first? I mean, it took us a year before that app was actually launched. So that first few months was a lot of content. Well, no, actually, rewind, before content development was the idea for what is this going to be? Is this going to be an iOS app? Is this, so we had to figure that out, and then we had to figure out what is this app actually going to be doing?
Well, and even thinking that, an app, that's got to be really inexpensive to make, maybe $5,000.
Yeah, we can come up with $5,000 to make an iOS app.
So even that was part of the struggle, I think, to begin with, is that when we started getting hit with the reality of how much things cost. And so my boyfriend at the time, again, he is in development and is a software engineer. And he kind of is the one that pushed us in the direction of, why do iOS? That might be more expensive. You should try doing a web-based application, which just means that you can access it from any device that's connected to the internet. So kind of if you are a current member of SLP Toolkit, then that is how you access it through the web, not through an iOS.
That was the best advice. That really was, because I think we would have always looked into iOS.
And then we broke up.
Yeah. He served his purpose.
Exactly.
Thank you to he who shall not be named.
Sometimes I do think I'm like, his role in life was just to push me, to make me think that I could do something bigger, and then to give us this idea for the web app, and then boom, done.
Yep.
That's all I needed him for.
Yeah, that was a really important decision for us, to decide how we were going to actually, provide the resource. And so we decided right then that we were going to do the web-based application. I think it's very funny that when we started to look into development, because obviously Lisa and I are not coders. Not only are we not business majors, but we are not coders.
What? I took a semester in community college.
I can HTML.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we had to find developers, and I think I spent 3 months Google searching for someone. And for the first couple months, and people I was calling, I was looking for website developers. And so I finally got a hold of somebody one day, and I'll never forget, he asked me what this was about, and I told him what it was that we wanted this application to be able to do, and he goes, I build websites.
Meaning like the landing pages. When you go to a website, how it looks, how it's laid out.
Right. Very, very different than a software engineer who develops applications.
Right. Whether they work on the web or as an app. You still have the same kind of coding principles behind it.
So I'm not even joking. I think that took me 3 months to figure that out alone, and to find the right person. But before we talk about how we found the developers who have built us this incredible product, the idea for the app really evolved too. It originally was going to be solely progress monitoring.
Right.
And then we realized, how can you progress monitor if you don't have any goals? And how the hell do you figure out the goals you want to give a student? And so that's when we developed some screening assessments that allowed you to get those really comprehensive present levels. And then based on how they did on these screening tools, then you had direction to go for goal selection. And then once you had those goals, now you've got these great tools that help make progress reports less painful. And so it was probably that first few months, right? Figuring out what this was going to look like.
Content.
And starting to develop content. Holy shit. That was a nightmare.
Yeah. That was a son of a bitch.
It really was, because we have a huge ethical responsibility, whether you're creating materials for Teachers Pay Teachers or the blogging that you're doing on behalf of the field. We have a huge responsibility to make sure that what we are putting out is best practice. And so obviously this was not just a business idea. This really came from our need to try to improve some things that we really struggled with. And so we spent a lot of time with that research and development of content. And thank goodness this is where Lisa's strength comes in. She's a great writer. Her grammar's beautiful. She's literally my editor-in-chief. Nothing you ever see goes out without her looking over it, because my grammar is not perfect. Big surprise. And so anyway, she was really instrumental in a lot of that development.
So we didn't have all of our content done even when we started looking for our developers.
Right. we didn't. Which again, even before developers, we didn't even have any money.
Right. Oh, that's such a huge thing.
Because again, like you had already mentioned, we thought this was going to be like $5,000. We did some research. Then we thought maybe about $30,000, right? We thought if we don't go with the iOS app, maybe we're going to be around $30,000. And so we that was the number we had in our minds. And then it was, how the hell do we get $30,000? Right. So we started going to like the Small Business Association and doing some research on, is there startup funds for women or, whatever it was. Nothing.
But actually, I would say there is stuff out there now that we're in.
We couldn't find it.
Now that we're in this arena and we get exposed to meeting a lot of other like tech leaders and business people in our community, there really is a lot of resources out there. But when you're new and you don't really even know where to go to find those resources, the only advice we were given was to try the Small Business Administration for possibly a loan of some sort.
Right.
And then also my in-laws, my ex-husband's family, they were recommending to go to SCORE, which is actually a really cool program that it's retired executives, and they have these across the country, but they still want to keep sharp and utilize their skill set even though they're retired, so they mentor people for free. And they're typically, like this one was connected in Phoenix right next to the Small Business Administration, so I think that they do some things together. But that was great for formulating a business plan and for
which we didn't need, by the way, but we'll talk about that too.
But it was good. It was good.
It was good to get us to walk through it and come up with our mission statement and do all of those things. No, that part was good too. But even they were like, tough shit when it comes to trying to get money. Like, again, who wants to fund an idea?
Right.
No one. No one is that stupid to give you money.
They want
for an
data.
idea.
Right. They want data that something's successful. And then we always joke about now that we always have people wanting to invest with us now. And we're like, where were you 3 years ago? Yeah, when we needed you.
Exactly. And so simultaneously, we are looking for a developer at the same time that we are trying to figure out where the money's coming from. And so I had gone to see my grandfather, who came from nothing. He was born in a very poor situation. I know he tells great stories about having a job as a very small boy and trying to earn money for his family. And he created a very successful business here in the Valley. And so I thought, well, he'll tell me how to get some money. I wasn't going to ask him for any money because that's what other people had said. Well, ask your family. And both of us, one, our own personal families, they don't have that kind of money to share with us. But two, I have potential family members that maybe do have the money to offer it, but I wasn't going to go there. I think that muddies waters, and I didn't want that responsibility and pressure of going to them and asking them for money, and then if things didn't work out. So I wasn't asking my grandpa for money. I was just asking him for advice. And so I'd gone to talk to him, and he's 90 at the time and very serious, and gave me some very concrete advice. And he told me he got a loan from a woman who gave him some money, and he just paid back interest until he actually started making a revenue, and then he paid her back slowly. And I said, okay, that's great information, thanks, and I went about my day. And he called me back about 6 hours later, and Lisa and I were working together. It was summer. And so he called me back and he said, Sarah, I've decided I'm giving you a loan. I will give you $5,000. You will pay me interest, and here are the terms. Write that up, send it to me, and I'll get you a check.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, I hung up the phone and I was like, holy crap. This was just a small little piece of what we needed, but it was kind of that fire where we thought, we got this. We got this. We got $5,000. We're going to dig up $25,000 from somewhere else.
Well, and that's where I needed you. Talk about strengths and weaknesses. I think that money piece really weighed on me because I didn't have any cash. Again, I was always strapped, working a second job already, just to
mom.
Kids.
We don't make a ton of money in the schools.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was really overwhelming to me, that idea of raising money. And you were so hell-bent on, no, this is it. If I've got this, I think it was actually even 6,000.
So I put it up to, I said, can we have 6?
Oh.
While this is happening simultaneously, we found our developers. And so we figured out how much it was going to cost, and the $6,000 was the down payment.
Yes.
And so it was perfect. So I called my grandpa back and I said, can I have 6? And he was like, sure. So I got the $6,000 loan.
So for me, the only thing I had going for me at that time was credit. And so not that this is the best idea for anyone out there that has an idea, but for me, it was that leap of faith of, it's funny that we can sometimes feel comfortable to ask other people for money. But when it came to myself, going against that credit, that was like a scary thing to me. But it was really like this free fall that I I had to have that conversation of, do you believe in this?
Right.
And I did. And so I thought, what's the worst thing that could happen? I file bankruptcy. I get a job back in the schools again at some point,
right.
and just start over. That happens to people. And if I did that, it would have been for a really great cause of, trying something and believing in myself, believing in us, believing in our idea and our business. But that was, it was
a defining moment where we were all in.
Right.
And that's why I took a loan for my life insurance policy. I did my credit cards.
Didn't you get a 401k?
Oh, yeah, we borrowed against my 401k. Yep. We did. So we scraped together the money. And the funny thing is we had talked to different developers, and one I had called wasn't interested at all because we were too small of a project for them. They didn't do anything less than $100,000. And so I remember that day, I thought, shit, if we could probably come up with 30 or 40, I don't think we can get 100. And I went back to the drawing board, and I don't know what I typed in that day that was different than any other Google search I had done up until that point. But I typed something in, and something came up right away for a company in the Valley, which again, how cool that they were local. And I clicked on the website, and they actually had a link or a page on their website that identified this basic startup for an application and broke the cost down.
And that you would have a product.
No one who had done that for us yet. Nobody would tell us an idea of what this was going to cost us. Yeah, and then by the end of it, you would have a viable product. And guess how much it was? It was $32,000. And I remember thinking, holy shit, we can do this. It was all starting to line up. And so, yeah, with the 401k and the bank, we came up with the money. Now, to the application that you know and love today costs $32,000 now. But that gave us a product at the end of it that kind of got us going and started.
Well, even I've seen quotes before that say, if you wait until something's perfect, you've waited too long. And that was the mentality of our developers, too. They were actually such a perfect fit. I think we could do a whole podcast just on that.
Yeah,
not just
we should
us.
Bring them in the confessional.
Yeah,
you
not
want
just
to find
us
out what it's like
together.
To work with us, right?
But they were always such great at defining needs versus wants and really driving some of the aesthetics of the program and how things were going to look. And they
were instrumental.
Well.
If we didn't have them, we'd have a red toolbox with spinning gears and tools popping out of it. Literally, we were so literal. Our idea was to have a toolkit. And I will never forget the moment they said, "You are not Home Depot."
Right.
Why would you have a toolbox?
And so we've definitely valued the input that they had. There were a couple of other things. They tried to help us, when you start a product, they always say start small, focus in on a small market, and then
grow it.
Right, grow it from there. And so they had suggested that we just make a product for kindergarten. And so we're like, yeah, okay. And we left that meeting. We're like, okay, not only are we going to do K through 12, but let's add preschool in there too.
Yeah.
So there were things that, we always filtered it through our knowledge of what our, this product was built for us, for our needs as school-based SLPs. So we had a good pulse on what we needed to make sure that we had a successful product to launch.
Right.
But do you remember even that first customer we got? We finally launched January 15th of 2016.
Right.
And I remember we didn't even get an email notification of, it was somebody who subscribed online, and the email... About
a week later, right? It was 1 week to the
It was
day
within
we
a
launched.
week. Yeah. And so the email went to one of our developers because they had set up the payment platform for us. So we didn't even know. It's like having a baby. You don't want anyone to call your baby ugly. It's this wait and see, and it was so exciting. And actually, we still have her receipt in our
I
office.
framed it. Are you kidding? I don't know. I don't know if she wants that to be announced right now. But that was a big deal. Yeah, that first customer. And this is all, so not only did we bootstrap to come up with the money to build this company, but we also, all of our marketing was very grassroots. And so, we've really, it was honestly just, we talked about we're not business majors, but we are freaking resourceful. And we did what we had to do to get this thing off the ground because we were so passionate about it. We believed in it. Talking about fear, we were terrified. This has been a roller coaster. It has not been perfectly smooth sailing. I will say, probably compared to most startup journeys, I do think it's probably been fairly smooth in comparison. Like I said, once that idea wanted to be born, doors opened. Lisa and I are very, very instinctual. And I think we have very good perception on things. So the people who have come in our lives and the choices we've made in directions have been very instinctual.
But I think I love how you brought up that, one of your favorite sayings is be a problem solver.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
No.
But, having the two of us, it's always been one of those things. Certain things freaked me out, certain things freaked you out, and we always got through it together, and we always figured it out. Even if you have that moment of panic, you then have to switch your mindset to the solution. So I think we were really good about that. We were always really good about, that connects into action, that it's not just about having ideas or waiting for things to come to you. Nothing's going to come
Never.
to you. You have to go out and seek it and move on it and make it actualized.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I think is really interesting is this whole idea of how naive we were to start, but how I believe that really did work in our favor because, in our lives, no matter what happened in our lives, I think both of us kind of experienced the same thing of we were never brought up to believe that we couldn't do things and that anything we wanted to do since I was a kid even.
Yeah. I've gotten everything I've wanted my whole life.
Right. You just figure stuff out. And
I'm like a freaking dog with a bone. Right?
But that's what I think was to our benefit as far as starting a business is that was our mindset going in. When we actually started getting more involved in our community here with entrepreneurs and business people and tech people in the Valley, in the Phoenix area, that is when we started to hear some statistics that I think would have scared us maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would have deterred us.
I don't know if anything would have deterred us, but we actually had no idea that women-owned businesses is rare.
And in the tech industry, I want to say it was was it 3 or 8%?
Oh, something really small.
Single digits.
Women tech companies just very, very small minority of. Tech companies are a very small minority of women are owned. We had no idea.
The idea of bootstrapping, I guess, is very uncommon to people go after seed funding to get even up to like $1 million before they even start something, and to think that we just got the bare minimum to get up and running.
And I'm so glad about that too. I'm glad that we owned the company, outright, and that we didn't have investors swaying our decisions. Because I think we talk about this a lot. The difference between what we created and what somebody else would have created is we are in the trenches. We solved a problem because it was our problem,
right.
And we are in the field, and so we have our finger on the pulse. Versus if we were engineers, that maybe had an idea and created this, it would be a very, very different product.
Right. This was not designed because tech is cool. It was designed because there was a problem.
Exactly
that
right.
needed to be fixed.
Yeah. So I'm glad we didn't probably know those statistics about how many businesses fail or about women owned. But it comes down to that, like, we're goal setters. We're relentless. I just
passionate.
Yeah, really.
About this field, about our product, we both are passionate.
Yeah, and if we're going to do something, we're going to do it well. We're not going to half-ass this shit. We're not going to quit. We're not quitters. That's just not in either of us. And so, again, thank goodness we have such similar values in our work ethic and what we're willing to put into something. And we'd love to talk about this with anyone. We love to see other women-owned companies, and we love to see all of these other people hustling and making changes in our field. And so, call us if you ever have any questions. We will say this isn't easy, and it's not glamorous, and I know we look like we're having the best time ever, and we are having a lot of fun, but it's freaking hard.
But that's part of, I think, if you think about the fun side, that connects in with everything else. We make the most of whatever's given to us. So even opportunities that we have to travel to do professional development, we work all day. We wake up at 6 a.m, typically present till 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and then spend all night
exploring for 12 hours. Yeah.
Right. Exploring a city and taking advantage of the fact that, who knows if we'll ever be back in this city again. And so let's make the most of it.
Yeah, we live. And we see a lot, I think we say a lot on our Instagram account too, about we work hard and we play hard. And so again, I'm glad we have that same dynamic too. I think we could do another podcast, this one, since it's getting a little long, about that was kind of the startup, like how we got this app built and launched. That, in fact, was the easy part. Running a business is a whole other freaking animal. And so we could do a part 2 on that sometime and talk a lot about what it's like to run a business.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So you can contact us by email anytime. You can reach us at podcast@slptoolkit.com. Let us know your thoughts on this. Do you have any fun ideas?
Yeah, let us help you.
Yeah. Or if you have any ideas that you want to hear us talk about in future podcasts, let us know that too.
Cool. And check out our next podcast. You never know what we'll be confessing next.
Later.